Hello, my name is FLAVIA OLL.mov. I am a preservationist. I am also an artist, I'm a writer, I'm an historical writer, and I'm an advocate for historic preservation. I'm here today to talk to you about Our Lady of Loreto Church, which has been a cause that's been near to me for a year now, and one which has been extremely interesting in all of its aspects. And I'm here to say that I am still fighting for the life of this church. My life as an advocate and activist, both in historic preservation and housing, started on New York's West Side. In that sense, I'm a New Yorker. In every sense, in a sense, I'm a New Yorker. I've lived in New Jersey for a long time, and I've been a very responsible and vocal activist for sites and historic cultural development in New Jersey. One of the places that I developed a foothold in was Paterson. Paterson is also the home of the great sculptor who created the facade of Our Lady of Loreto. That's how I got into this campaign. I must say it has been a steep learning curve, not just more about Federici and the construction, the amazing construction of that cast stone church with the members of his family and with the architect Adriano Armezzani. All of them, all the builders, all the creators, all the people who carried the weight for that church were Italians, Italian-born, Italian-Americans, making their statement about the craftsmanship and the artisanship that they brought with them from their home country. So they came here to start a new life, but they brought with them the genius that then represented itself, made itself visible in the construction of this church in Brooklyn, in Oceanville, Brownsville. It has stood there now for well over 100 years. It is a monument to the creativity of the craftsmen and builders who did it. It is the monument to the creativity of this great sculptor, Gaetano Federici, whose work I am, you might say, the world's authority on. Actually, I am the co-author of this book, but I'd like to admit that I take credit for a lot of what's in it, and for the promotion of the work of this genius sculptor who made himself the master artist of Paterson in the great Italian tradition, an Italian tradition in which he wanted to live, not just replicate in his work, but to live by becoming the Paterson master. But he also, as a young man, took on this challenge of creating Our Lady of Loreto and produced as a result the largest sculpture of his career, at least in the United States. And it is the beautiful, monumental pediment frieze of the facade of this church. Saw the value of the church is bigger than us. It transcends our lives, certainly. It goes back, of course, to its own history, but it transcends even its geographical boundaries. It says something about the history of Italian-American culture at the turn of the last century, when Italians were creating that great wave of culture that established their huge presence in the United States and in the New York metro area. It created an opportunity for Italians to showcase that they were not just New Yorkers, but that they were metropolitan area people who had established a culture here. That it didn't matter that some of them were from Brooklyn and some of them were from Manhattan and some of them were from New Jersey and probably some of them from elsewhere. But they all converged in this one place to bring all of that talent and all of that culture and all of that spiritual meaning of movement and reestablishing yourself, which is, of course, the meaning of this church. I mean, that the transition of the Holy House of Loreto is about movement, it's about transition, it's about travel, it's about reestablishing yourself. They, too, reestablished their position and their culture in Our Lady of Loreto in Oceanville, and it really replicated and resonated the culture that had been established around the community of New York at that time. It's absolutely magnificent symbol of commitment to a place, commitment to creativity, commitment to the future, and commitment to a quality of life and a quality of construction that was unexampled even at its own time, let alone now. So it stands in that moment of the campaign as a recognition that this, the goal of the campaign was not just to save a church, but to save a magnificent monument to Italian-American culture and to culture, period, in the New York area. And that is why when the campaign kind of lost its way in the course of April, when the diocese said it wasn't going to demolish the church anymore, we're afraid that what is being presented to us is a controversy, in a sense, a collision course, a direction that isn't consistent with itself, a housing plan, a plan to demolish the rectory, which will subtract from the character of the church, which will deprive the church of a protected surround, which will build driveways and access points directly up and parking right up against the church. So there is not a consistent sense here that the diocese actually wants to do what the original campaign sought to have it do. So what we feel is though we've had a signal victory in the promise that's in the air, the alleged promise that the church will not be demolished. We feel as though some concrete part of that promise is not present to us, that the church has not received its due in terms of the recognition by the diocese of the goals of this campaign. So the upshot of this controversy, of course, is that some of us have been shut out. We're talking about the responsibility of the diocese and of the people in this campaign to save the church to the community and to the larger community, not just the people who live there now, but the people who will come after us and the people who will benefit from the enlargement of the scope of this project so that it reaches into the future and really represents the value added that we can give it as Italian-American. Take a look at what we envision for that site and imagine it in the context of this community. A magnificent building, which it still is, it is now, but enhanced by the investment of care in the maintenance and restoration of its facade. A building that's surrounded by quality housing, a building that still has, if possible, a serviceable building beside it, the rectory, which can support programs in the church. An understanding with both the diocese and the community that good, appropriate cultural events will be held there. This, I agree with those who are concerned about the reuse of this church. It is sacred space. You do what is right in such a space. But there are wonderful things that you can do that are true to the spirit of that space. There are concerts, there are lectures, there are theatrical performances, there is dance, there is a full array of cultural events that express the high spiritual content of that church and the high spiritual content of our community and of that community and of the larger community that this will draw people to. Think about the way this building, as a preservationist, I know what buildings do to communities and what the saving of buildings does to communities. Think about that building restored, becoming now an anchor, a magnet for cultural events in a community that has needed them desperately. Think about the kind of synergy that that kind of quality of construction can bring, that the original plan with its quality housing could lend to that community. And of course that quality housing lending also an entire living community that would be invested in the future of that space. Think about that beautiful facade now restored and becoming the icon of redevelopment of Brownsville, Brooklyn. You know me, Frank Chamet, already from previous interactions, if only by email. And I know you. You are a wonderful developer. You are a great Italian-American. I've seen your process document, the document that you've prepared in order to build community input for this project. It says, it pays lip service to the involvement of the community that has not been realized. I think that involvement of the community is going to be the linchpin piece of the future of the building that even you envision. That the model this Our Lady of Loreto will represent to the adaptive reuse of buildings like this throughout the New York area, if that truly is your intention. The model will be how it uses its opportunity to integrate itself and to become the beacon that it should be for this community of Ocean Hill, Brownsville. Do not neglect the people of this community. Bring them into the process. Bring them into the process now, from the first moment you hear these words, now. Here, really to achieve the same goals that you say you want to achieve. We want to unite Italian Americans. We want to create a beautiful space. We want to create a future for this building and for this community that the diocese, looking back on it, will be proud of, and that you can be proud of, and that we also can be proud of. The community I'm referring to as Oceanville, Brownsville is, of course, an important component of this dialogue that we need to conduct about the future of this church. But Frank, you can't shut out the rest of us either. Bishop DiMarzio, you are the keeper of the church's real estate. The people of the community own this church, and they are the ones who should be able to declare their stake in its future and their promise to maintain it for the future. In a way, of course, that doesn't you no harm, and that does the future of the diocese no harm. No one wants to do that. But in a way that says, look, we have rights here too.